So this is a video I wanted to do comparing the original Maison Kurkdjian Baccarat Rouge 540 in the Eau de Parfum concentration to the Extrait de Parfum concentration of Baccarat Rouge 540. Also wanted to do a separate video where I highlight other fragrances that I have in my collection that reminds me of these fragrances. But I thought then, you know what? Let's do the video together. So today I'm going to tell you about what the differences are between these two fragrances, and also tell you a whole 11 fragrances that I have in my collection that remind me of Baccarat Rouge 540. So if you want to find out about these two fragrances and how they are similar and different, plus the 11 other fragrances that remind me of these fragrances, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. That's right, today it's all about Maison Kurkdjian Baccarat Rouge 540 in the Eau de Parfum concentration in comparison to Baccarat Rouge 540 in the Extrait de Parfum concentration. Again, you've probably seen my video about this fragrance from last year. It wasn't a love at first sniff, but now I'm obsessed with the way it smells. In fact, I can't get enough of it, and I'm even more obsessed with the Extrait de Parfum version over the original version. But I'm going to tell you all about this fragrance, plus the 11 other fragrances that I have in my collection that reminds me of these two fragrances. But before we do that, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you still haven't subscribed to my channel, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So this was not a love at first sniff. I'm sure you guys have gone through this as well. I've heard from many of you who had similar issues. I mean, you just never were really into it, and then all of a sudden something happened and you got, you know, into it. But some of you still tell me that you're not fans of this fragrance. You just don't like the way it smells, all that good stuff. But at one point when it first came out in 2015, I felt like that. I felt like, wow, what is this fragrance? It doesn't smell like anything I want to wear. It's not exciting me, all that good stuff. But year after year, I came around to it finally. And last year, early last year, is when I bought my bottle and I started wearing it, and I really loved appreciating it. I don't know what was the reason. Is it because I started smelling it on people? Because you do smell this fragrance on people. But I don't know if it was my nose palate opened up. It became interested in that kind of a smell. Something happened. But for me, it just was not love at first sniff. Have you guys had the same issue as well? Let me know. Put a comment down so I can find out. So now that I have both fragrances, as I said, I am really into this particular one. But what's the difference? So EDP concentration, Eau de Parfum, versus Extrait de Parfum concentration. So basically, the differences here are concentrations. You get less perfume oil here, more perfume oil here. And the price point is definitely, you can see the difference with the price point because one is a lot more expensive than the other. And when you get a lot more of that perfume oil, the longevity is great. And what Kurkdjian has made here, I think is a very iconic fragrance. It was very polarizing, at least for me it was. I just couldn't figure out why everybody was going gaga over it, and so that made it popular. I think people react very dramatically to this fragrance. I was reacting dramatically to it as well. But it's very popular, and it's been copied a lot now. I feel like it's been copied as much as Aventus. There's so many people, you know, utilizing whatever the notes are in this fragrance and coming up with their own twist to it. And I have 11, as I said. So the original came out in 2015. It utilizes Ambergris. Now it does say Ambergris, and that's where they advertise it. I personally think it's Ambroxan, because when you smell this fragrance, it does smell a little, not a little, but a lot like, you know, Ambroxan. Just to put your nose on Ambroxan from Eccentric Molecules or Not a Perfume. Those fragrances, or even Sauvage, it'll remind you of this fragrance. But what Kurkdjian has done with this fragrance is he's combined it with that sexy saffron and jasmine and cedar wood. So in the end, it is a very, very sexy fragrance. It has major, major longevity, especially on clothing. Like you put this, you put sprays on your clothes, and you know you take them off at night. You go to bed, you come back and grab that clothes. I don't know what you can do with it. Hang it up or put it in the laundry. You can still smell the fragrance on you. That is the most amazing thing, because that's how great the fragrance is, and especially if it's the Extrait version. even longer. It lasts and lasts and lasts. The difference between the two, this, I don't remember exactly when it came out, probably in 2018, maybe 2017, somewhere around there. But this one has the notes of almonds, bitter almonds listed. So there has almonds, and it says ambergris again, but I don't know, is it a combination of ambergris and ambroxan? I don't smell much ambergris here. I smell more ambroxan. And ambergris tends to go a little bit animalic to me anyway. So you've got the ambroxan or ambergris here. You got the saffron. There's some jasmine here, but I think he's added musky notes in here as well. What it says on the Maison Francis Kurkdjian website is musky, woody accord. So it's definitely woody, it's definitely musky, and it's very, very sexy. Along with cedar. So this actually lasts a lot longer. I feel like, for me, it's not necessarily double the length of the time of longevity, but definitely a third more than however much this lasts. And this lasts 6 hours, 6.5 hours, maybe pushing 7 hours, but it is a lot thinner. The wearing experience is thinner, so that's what I get with this one. It's, even though it's an eau de parfum, which is not an eau de toilette, obviously, but I get the experience of the fragrance to be a lot thinner, and it does have great longevity, but it's a thin longevity, so you can experience it when you're wearing it. The density of the fragrance in comparison to one another, you'll definitely experience it. Like, it wears thicker when you're wearing this one, it wears more transparent when you're wearing this one. So basically the perfume oils that he's used, the concentration in comparison to this and this, it's a lot stronger here, and that's why it lasts a lot longer. It just lingers on and on and on, and that lingering quality is the very, very sexy part about it. Again, I think, in my opinion, I don't think there's any ambergris here. It just doesn't really smell like ambergris. It smells like ambroxan. And ambergris, ambroxan, what's the difference? The comparison is basically ambroxan is a synthetic molecule note that was created by perfume laboratories to emulate or recreate the smell of ambergris. For me, they do not smell at all anything like. I think it's more of a synthetic idea of ambergris. For me, it's very woody, slightly aquatic, very, very slightly aquatic, and very musky. That's what I get from ambroxan. And it's one of those notes that you can be nose blind to, anosmic to. So in the end, you might not smell anything, but other people might smell it on you, if that makes sense. But for me, comparing both of the fragrances, I feel like this one does have that bitter almond smell, so there is a little bit of a smooth creamy, slight, I'm not even going to go to the point of saying gourmand, but a buttery, slight creamy quality to it, but a bitter variety of that buttery, creamy quality. So that's basically mostly what's the difference, and the muskiness here compared to here has been amped up as well. So that's basically the only differences for me, smells wise. And again, I do prefer this one as well. When you spray this one on one hand and when you spray this one on the other, the times I was testing them, this one is, as I said, basically you'll experience the density. It's less dense, a lot more airy. Transparent comes to mind, as I said. This one, the density is definitely prominent. You'll experience it. And the smell, just those minute details of the smell with the almonds and that extra muskiness, and that's pretty much all you get with the differences. If you prefer stronger fragrances and you have the money, I highly recommend this one. If you like lighter fragrances, and I'm not saying this is light, it's just acts light compared to the Extrait de Parfum. So that's the difference. A lot of you are fans of this, and you can stick with it, but if you want something stronger, definitely try this one. So those are my differences between these two fragrances, and I've wanted to do this video, and I've been a fan of this fragrance for now going on for 2 years, but you know, it was a incremental appreciation, because it started out with me not appreciating it, and slowly but surely that smell came into my nose, and I kept, you know, familiar with the smell, and eventually I started liking it, because every time I'd go into Neiman Marcus, they'd be wanting to spray the fragrance on me, and I'd be smelling it, and I'm like, okay. But when they first started spraying it on me back in 2015, when they first came out, I was like, you know what, I don't like this fragrance, keep it away. Now I can't get enough of it. Has that happened to you guys as well? Let me know. Put a comment down so that I can find out. Now, on to the Baccarat Rouge 540 babies. That's what I'm calling them. Is that what you call them? A lot of fragrances have come out that do smell like whatever is inside Baccarat Rouge is in the fragrances themselves. So it's the accord out of Baccarat Rouge is what they're using to add to fragrances that they're creating. So the very first time I started smelling that was in a fragrance called INITIO's Oud for Greatness, right here. So here they've taken it into a salty, woody direction, and they've added that accord from the Baccarat Rouge, and they've added it here in this fragrance. And this fragrance it has become so popular, and the very first time I experienced it was in Selfridges in London when I was traveling there, and there was a crowd around this fragrance that you would not believe. I was shocked at how many people were just, I was going through the whole perfume department at Selfridges, and people would be coming and going, where's Oud for Greatness? Where's Oud for Greatness? So I was kind of like surprised. Later on, like a month or so after that trip, I reviewed it myself, and I can see because it has a kind of like the best of both worlds. It has the sexy muskiness of the Ambroxan from Baccarat Rouge, but it adds some unique twists with some spices and oud here. So it's the best of both worlds. I feel like what they've done here is they've kind of capitalized on that sexy smell from Baccarat Rouge and added it to some woody, spicy, slightly aromatic kind of notes, and it has great longevity as well, so it's a great smelling fragrance. But in the end, I find it to be, is it original? I mean, I'm just asking you guys, do you consider INITIO's Oud for Greatness original? Do you find it a little too close to Baccarat Rouge, or do you not find it close at all? Because there is one fragrance here that a lot of people say it does smell like Baccarat Rouge, but I only get like a tiny amount. I'm going to leave that till the end. But with this one, I definitely pick up that accord that's in Baccarat Rouge here in INITIO's Oud for Greatness. Now you guys might like that about it. You guys might hate Baccarat Rouge, but love this one. So it's all a matter of taste. But to me, I feel like whatever Francis Kurkdjian created with Baccarat Rouge now has been emulated a lot by various different brands. Anyway, that's INITIO Oud for Greatness. Now this next one is another fragrance I sampled on my trip to London, but this one actually not at Selfridges but at Harrods. This is Thomas KOSMALLA's number 4 Après l'Amour. So this one here does have similarities to what do you call it, Baccarat Rouge, but here it goes in an opposite direction. It goes into a very dusty, almost like an intense Ambroxan territory. Like what they've done is basically intensified and amplified the Ambroxan and whatever accord is inside the Baccarat Rouge, and they brought it here and just giving us that like an intense version of it. It also does hint a little bit at some of the abrasive qualities of Sauvage, because I find Sauvage to be very rough and abrasive, kind of like really rugged, kind of lots of big dose of Ambroxan. So I find that here too, but it does hint at Baccarat Rouge. It's in there, but you're getting a very woody, concentrated version of it. But this one has notes of woody notes, musks, spices, amber, lemon zest, and petitgrain. There's a little bit of lemony zest in there. Of course, it's lemony. I'm not sure if it's lemon zest is what I would call it, but there's a little bit of a citric touch, petitgrain, a little bit of green touch. But for me, it's mostly about the woody notes with the musk and the spices. And amber could refer to Ambroxan, because this is a big dose of Ambroxan to me, with a little bit of that Baccarat Rouge. I shouldn't say a little bit, I think it's a lot. You can totally pick up the Baccarat Rouge 540 DNA here. Anyway, that's Thomas KOSMALLA number 4 Après l'Amour. The next one is a fragrance I've actually reviewed on the channel. This is Instant Crush from MANCERA. So MANCERA's Instant Crush is kind of a MANCERA's take on that Baccarat Rouge 540 DNA. The DNA is in here, but you can totally pick up the MANCERA quality or style. With Instant Crush, I feel like it came out around the same time of MONTALE's Sensual Instinct. I feel like both are great, but for some reason later on I started loving this one more. There's something creamy under it that I really enjoy here, almost like a gourmand. But with this one, they have notes of amberwood, saffron, vanilla, rose, sandalwood, musk, mandarin orange, and jasmine. So for me, the rose adds that MANCERA DNA or signature, because MANCERAs have a lot of rose. They use a lot of rose. And I think the creaminess thing I'm getting here, slightly gourmandish, is sandalwood. There's a little bit of a creamy sandalwood touch in here, which really is awesome. But that DNA of Baccarat Rouge 540 is in here, and it's really prominent when you put it on. You can totally smell it. So in the end, if you like that whole Baccarat Rouge 540 thing, but you want to go in a different direction, you want to find some alternatives, and you like the gourmand thing or, you know, creamy woody thing, then the MANCERA Instant Crush could be your cup of tea or your replacement. Then again, you might not be a fan of Baccarat Rouge, but then you might be a fan of this one. So I suggest if you're looking to explore fragrances that are kind of in that same ballpark, try this one, because this one might appeal to you, whereas Baccarat Rouge does not. Anyway, that's Instant Crush from MANCERA. I really love that one, actually. Do I consider it a clone? I'm not sure if I consider these clones. I feel like there's, you know, they're taking the accord of Baccarat Rouge and, you know, making their own unique twists to it, whereas there are clone houses that will do a, you know, just flat out clone of a fragrance. And I mean, I guess it's kind of in the same ballparkish kind of idea, but thankfully they're not copying it flat out. I'm sure there's flat out clones of Baccarat Rouge, but at least these have their own unique twists. They'll remind me of Baccarat Rouge, but they'll go in a different direction when I'm wearing it. Does that make sense to you guys? Alright, so speaking of MONTALE, here is Sensual Instinct right here. So Sensual Instinct for me is almost like a Baccarat Rouge 540 Accord taken to a MONTALE Intense Cafe kind of a direction. So in here you have that Baccarat Rouge 540 Accord, that sparkly, musky Ambroxan, Ambergris if you're technical or not technical, but you have loads of coffee here. There's some chocolatey touches of praline, there's Oakmoss, the roses here, there's amber and cedar. So all those notes combined, to me, take it into, again, it's like a MONTALE-esque version of Baccarat Rouge, where they've taken the idea of Baccarat Rouge and the DNA or the accord created by Baccarat Rouge and brought it in and added it to a MONTALE-esque style of perfume. So for me, as I said, it does remind me a little bit of a chocolate coffee, intense coffee concoction with that accord from Baccarat Rouge. So I guess initially I really preferred this one over Instant Crush, but lately I've actually reverted and started enjoying Instant Crush a little more for some reason, because I really appreciate Intense Cafe from this brand, or Ristretto Intense Cafe. So this one kind of reminds me of it, then it doesn't, and then it reverts to Baccarat Rouge and then comes back. So for some reason I'm kind of like preferring more of the Instant Crush, but then you might actually like this. If you like Intense Cafe and you also like Baccarat Rouge, maybe this is one for you to try, because you kind of have best of those both worlds in one fragrance. Anyway, that's Sensual Instinct from MONTALE. Let me know if you're a fan of this, and let me know if you're a fan of any of the fragrances I've discussed so far. This next one is a fragrance I actually reviewed later last year. It's Mizensir For Your Love. Here, it's in there, that Baccarat Rouge-like DNA or accord, but what they're using here, it's created by Alberto Morillas. Exaltone, which is musky raspberry note, it's fruity. Patchouli, which is sexy. Cashalox, which is the synthetic ambergris, or, you know, it's a different form of Ambroxan is what I should say, and Benzoin. So in the end, this one's ultra musky and very sexy, and the trail this one leaves is quite phenomenal. In fact, I should say all of these fragrances, when they have that accord from Baccarat Rouge, the trail is amazing. So if you're looking for a fragrance that has great sillage, great projection, and the great trail that you leave behind, well, sillage and trail is the same thing anyway, these are the fragrances to try, especially if you love Baccarat Rouge. Then you have all these different alternatives, because these fragrances leave the most amazing trail. When you wear them in a little bit of a heat out there, oh man, the fragrances just come alive. There's something about Ambroxan in heat, amazing. And this one, as I said, is very sexy, it's very musky. The patchouli combo with that Ambroxan of Cashalox and the musk of Exaltone with that fruity touch of raspberry is quite phenomenal. Anyway, this is For Your Love from the house of Mizensir. Now this next one is from the house of Tiziana Terenzi, and this is Spirito Fiorentino. And with this one, it's going into a more leathery fabric smelling direction with the Baccarat Rouge-like accord. So with this one, you have loads of ambergris, leather, birchwood, woody notes, oak moss, and musk. And this one does go a little animalic, the leather becomes a little animalic, so you've got to be into those kind of fragrances, and if you're not, this might be a turn-off. But if you like the idea of that Baccarat Rouge like DNA or accord into a more leathery, slightly animalic take, Spirito Fiorentino definitely will satisfy you. But this one, to me, as I said, it smells like a fabric, a cross between leather and fabric. I get that with this one because it's very leathery. It's ultra leathery, and when you're smelling it out of the bottle, it doesn't smell like anything like Baccarat Rouge, but you're wearing it, it does pop through, and that's when it'll remind you of a little bit of the DNA of Baccarat Rouge, or the accord out of Baccarat Rouge. Anyway, that's Spirito Fiorentino. It's a great leather from the house of Tiziana Terenzi. I love that one a lot. This next one is a fragrance called Annone from Pantheon. Now this is another very intense version of, I wouldn't say it's a copy, but that DNA, again, the accord is in here. But this one's a fruity take on it. I'm actually going to spray this one on and see how it acts on me, because I'm not too familiar with this one. So for me, this one is an ultra fruity, ultra floral take on the Baccarat Rouge accord or DNA, as what the bottle looks like right there. But with this one, you have a big dose of mango with oud, saffron, bergamot, rose, iris, cypriol oil, and musk. Again, it's very sexy. It's very woody and fruity. So it's a slight bit unique take on it. For me, the fruitiness with some of the other notes does add a bit of a soapy layer to it. But as you're wearing it, that, you know, that accord pops through, and you'll start remembering Baccarat Rouge because it's in here. But it's interesting how perfumers have noticed that, or realized that Baccarat Rouge is so popular, they're going to take a part of it and add it to their fragrance. Do you consider this original, or would you rather have it you know, not done? But one question I have is, I'm sure this has happened in the past with other notes. It's just with Baccarat Rouge 540, it's such a distinct smell that you can totally recognize it. But I'm sure there are other notes that were created in the past and it became popular and other brands started using it that was not so recognizable. But here, for me, this whole accord in Baccarat Rouge is so recognizable that when you smell it in these fragrances, you'll think of Baccarat Rouge. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, this one's a unique take on that whole DNA of Baccarat Rouge or accord. Annone, check it out. It's Pantheon Aroma is the name of the house, and that's another one for you to try if you are looking for alternatives to Baccarat Rouge, or you don't like Baccarat Rouge but you are looking to find something similar perhaps. So this next one is also created by Francis Kurkdjian, who created the original Baccarat Rouge, and he created this for the House of Burberry. It's called Burberry Her. And here it does appear, the Baccarat Rouge 540 DNA or accord appears in here, and you'll totally recognize it. But with this fragrance, you have to sit through a lot of fruity notes for it to appear finally. When you first smell it, it's not there, but as it's developing on your skin, it'll pop and you'll be like, oh my god, I've smelled this fragrance before. It happens to smell like Baccarat Rouge. But with this one, as I said, it's very fruity. You got loads of strawberries here, raspberries, blackberries, there's lots of musk with this one. There's also cherries, there's oak moss, black currant, vanilla, violet. I find it to be it's an eau de parfum concentration, but I find it to be very fresh and refreshing. It feels like you can totally get away with wearing this one in the summertime because it's ultra fruity, but it's got that muskiness in there, and then it's got that little bit of that accord from Baccarat Rouge to make it very sexy. I love this one. It smells great, but you got to be into fruity fragrances because this is ultra fruity. Anyway, that's Burberry Her, the original, and there's probably like 4 or 5 flankers to that fragrance. Now this one you're probably gonna laugh at. I have it because it's such a copy of Baccarat Rouge. This is a celebrity fragrance, and this is I don't know how the freaking bottle is. It's the ugliest looking bottle. This is Ariana Grande's Cloud. But boy, this is such a copy of the original Baccarat Rouge. It's like a spitting image of it going into a slight gourmandish direction. I don't really usually like, you know, celebrity fragrances, but Ariana Grande's Cloud, the reason I got it is because of this particular video, and I wanted to let you guys know about it because this fragrance is so popular. It's like it's in a celebrity fragrance. Ariana Grande's Cloud, I feel like, is probably the closest to smelling like a spitting image of Baccarat Rouge. A lot of them do smell like it, but this one comes so close, just in a gourmand, fluffy, whipped cream direction. Well, whipped cream and the Cloud, it's really a tacky bottle, but the smell is like an ultra copy. It does lean a little feminine as well. If you don't find Baccarat Rouge feminine, because a lot of people have told me in comments, oh, it smells like a woman's fragrance by men, and women have said it smells like a men's fragrance. So it's kind of like a you know, chameleon-esque kind of a fragrance where one sex says it's for the other sex and the other sex says it's for the other sex. So, but this one definitely has very feminine leanings, but still, when you get past that gourmandish qualities of the whipped cream, there's praline, there's coconut here, lavender, musk, pear, vanilla, orchid, and woods, then it starts smelling like Baccarat Rouge. So in the end, it's a tacky looking bottle. It's very playful. It looks like a children's or a young girl's perfume, which it's probably targeting young girls, but then again, they're using that whole Baccarat Rouge 540 accord, the DNA in here, which is like, okay, it's made it into celebrity fragrances. It's got to be that popular. Anyway, Ariana Grande's Cloud. So I've got 2 more fragrances left, and these 2 fragrances are the least reminding me of Baccarat Rouge, but this next one reminds me more of Baccarat Rouge than the last one I'm going to talk to you about. And this is Atomic Rose from the house of INITIO. And then, you know, we had the original here, Oud for Greatness, when I first talked about it at the beginning of the video. But here, there is a little bit of something Baccarat Rouge-like in there. Not as much. In the end, it's mostly a green, twiggy rose, like stemmy rose, very green, and it's fresh. I love it in the heat. That's when I first experienced it. But under there, it does appear a little bit, but it doesn't last too long. And if you didn't know Baccarat Rouge, you would never know that this smelled like Baccarat Rouge, if that makes sense to you guys. But it's in the end, it's a great, great rose. I love it. And I love that part when it does appear to smell a little bit like Baccarat Rouge, but in the end, it's mostly a very, as I said, green, stemmy, musky, slightly citric rose, which is awesome. This is Atomic Rose from INITIO Parfums. And last but not least, it's Callan from Parfums de Marly. A lot of people say this is so close to smelling like Baccarat Rouge. I don't get it. I mean, I guess one time I was wearing it, I got a glimpse of it, like a tiny little glimpse, not at all like something that completely reminded me of Baccarat Rouge, but every other time I've worn it, it's never smelled like Baccarat Rouge. So in the end, people do say it is. I guess your nose picks up something different than mine, and as I said, mine did pick it up. Not the first time, not the second time, but the several wearings in, I got something. Maybe I had a little bit of Baccarat Rouge on me before. I don't think so, but then since then, it hasn't smelled like it. So I don't know much about this one and why it doesn't remind me of Baccarat Rouge, but a lot of people say it does. But what this one is focusing on as far as notes goes are spices, blood orange, black pepper, woods, lavender, oakmoss, orange, blossom. It's a unique fragrance, this one. It's not their typical style for Parfums de Marly, but sometimes people like unique fragrances, and if you want something different than your common fragrances, definitely this one is one for you to try. But do you guys get the Baccarat Rouge DNA or accord in here? Because I sure don't. Only one time, as I said, and it was a very, very short-lived time. Anyway, those are my suggestions for alternatives to Baccarat Rouge. I just wanted to do this video. It's a long video. I'm sorry it went on so long, but in the end, you have 11 fragrances here that you can pick from, and also see the differences between Baccarat Rouge 540 in Eau de Parfum and also the Extrait de Parfum. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today. Which of these fragrances do you prefer? And if you don't prefer one of these, do you like one of the other ones that I was talking about today? And if you don't like this fragrance style at all, please put a comment down so I can find out. Other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching today. Please do like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.